Um, I didn't really do any, I didn't do any, what do you call it? I didn't do any research into this apart from what we've learned and what we've practiced, I guess, through NLP training. We talk about that really one of the first steps to taking control of your life, of your shit, is instead of looking to assign blame, take blame out of the equation and start thinking, okay, well, hang on. Who was at every crime scene? Yeah, that's me. I was there. What did I
Who
learn?
was at every crime scene?
Exactly, the common denominator,
Yes.
all those things. Um, and start thinking about, oh, okay, well, what's the reason? What's the reason that I keep ending up in that sort of situation or feeling this same way? What leads me there? What's the strategy that I seem to have in place that means I end up in that kind of um, emotion or place?
Yeah.
So then when you can break that down and see what it is that got you to that, then it actually gives you the power to go, I see you now. I
Mm.
see what draws me to that sort of person, or I see what pain or wound I'm looking to fill or heal. So then you can make it about you instead of making it about other people doing stuff or whatever. Make it about you.
Yeah, and that's the thing that people don't want to do. They don't want to make it about them.
Mm,
They always want to make it about everybody else. And
mm,
yeah, I think that's a very big point. I mean, one of my coaching clients at the moment, um, I'm being very talking about extreme ownership. Here,
mm,
um, I'm kind of leading the client to that level here because it comes down to even the tiniest of things that you're allowing or justifying. So, for example, the conversation this morning was about, he told me about a friend that had said, was jokingly talking about negative things. And I said, but that's negative. I said, that's got to stop.
mm.
You need to, and he was justifying. He was like, well, she was just joking. She was just, I said, yes, I get it, but you are not hearing the joke.
Mm.
These things are allowing you to stay exactly where you are, and apparently you don't like that, but you want to change things. You've got to go down to that deep level. It's not just about the are you moving yourself towards your goals and things like that. It's
Mm.
all the other tiny things that go with it that have got to stop as well. You have to completely stop everything to be able to analyze the pattern and the strategy that you're executing, as you said.
Mm.
So, it's. I, I said to the same client, I was like, you got to absolutely, you got to stop dating. I want you to stop dating, apps, all of everything. Everything's got to stop. And the client didn't see the importance because kept on sort of saying, "Oh, I know you said stop, but I got a
But
text message from such and such." I was like, "And you did what?"
mm.
Well, I spoke to her, and is that stopping or is that continuing?
Mm.
And he was like, "Oh, I know, but you're joking." Listen, let me be deadly serious with you. I'm here to get something done. I'm here as your coach to do it. I'm telling you what to do, and you're executing the behavior of not following instructions. And he was like, blah, blah, blah. Again, took it back down to basics. I said, the reason you need to stop doing those things because your current patterns, your current execution of behavior
Mm.
is pulling all these things in. And if you don't stop the pattern in all aspects, you cannot fix it.
It's a strategy.
It's a strategy. Yeah, precisely.
And we have excellent strategies in place that keep getting us an outcome we don't want.
Yeah. Well, actually, our unconscious minds are really good at giving us what we want.
Mm.
The thing is, we don't realize we're getting what we want, but we don't want it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it
that
gets my
deep
drift.
dive into values and the wounds of those values, where they've
Yeah,
been pained, where they've been misled, by depending on who you modeled as a child. There's so many
so much,
layers to
so
strategies,
many. Yeah,
And I do want to put in a caveat here. We are not talking about excusing bad behavior, as in, at all different times in different people's lives, we do fall victim to someone else's bad behavior. And extreme ownership is not about excusing that behavior and saying, well, that's okay that they treated me that way. That's not what this is about. Their behavior that's their journey and that's their problem. However, after the fact, after the event, when we choose then to stay in the presence of that behavior, when we return to that type of behavior, when we make excuses for their behavior, those sorts of things, that's an us problem then, you know?
what's the meme? It's one of my favourites. It's like, don't don't be upset with the clown. Ask why you're at the circus in the first place.
Yeah, I can't, it is something along those lines, isn't it?
Something like that. But it's people go, what? I'm like, well, look, if you don't like what the clown's doing, and don't get, he's just there being a clown.
You're showing up.
You're still sat there watching it.
Yeah. Another one I've heard is, if people or an event, if someone's sucking the life out of you, ask why you're still giving them the straw. I'm like, oh, yes. I like
So
that.
true. A good one.
I like that
Yeah.
one. And so what kind of led me, I always have something happening during the week that leads to, Adam, I really want to discuss this. I want to get your thoughts. So the couple of things that happened during the week that led me to this discussion. The first one was in regards to some politicians on TV talking about teaching or teachers. And he was talking about how he thinks that teachers need to start taking more responsibility for the fact that our children are generally dumber now and that they're failing NAPLAN tests and things like that. And he was putting quite a lot of the blame and responsibility and saying that teachers are not taking responsibility for this problem. And I thought, oh, okay, interesting perspective. However, then I started thinking about, well, hang on, if we're going to start assigning responsibility for how kids are at school, let's start talking about responsibility from a parent's perspective. Because a lot of the problems in school that I've seen, and I have a 7-year-old, and I also have older children who have gone through the school system, all comes down to behaviour, not necessarily intelligence or even the curriculum. It comes down to having to manage behavioural issues. And along with behavioural issues comes then the statistics like, well, how many hours in a day, how many, students in a classroom per teacher. There's all these other responsibilities. And the hardest thing is to put that responsibility back on parents and saying, right, well, if there's poor behaviour in a classroom and this student perhaps is the culprit, is that the parent's responsibility then to sort that out? Not the teacher's. Is the teacher's job not to parent? The teacher's job is to teach the curriculum. So do you see how it was? I thought, wow, it's so simple to just, again, blame and point the finger at this is your fault, instead of actually seeing that accountability is a much bigger umbrella And it comes down to every single individual under that umbrella taking accountability for what they are producing in the world, what they are putting out there. And our kids, like it or not, our kids are a reflection of us, of what they learn at home. They are modelling what they are around most of the time.
Yeah. Conversely, then, the parents who are now parenting, they've been through the same school system.
Mm.
They've been through the same system, and the parents, what have they learned?
Yeah.
So the issue has become systemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because gone are the days of kids crapping themselves like, oh my god, we're gonna get the cane. If I, like, that was not that long ago.
I remember that
Scheme.
when I was at school.
Yeah, like I remember I'm 45, and I remember I never got the cane or anything at school, but our head teacher were scary.
Yeah.
Mrs. Tate, she'll be dead now, bless her, or she'll be like 120 years old. But incredibly fierce, and that was enough, because you just, oh my god, that's gone now. Teachers have no power to do anything. There's no discipline anywhere. It's so much deeper, I think, than you're right. But kids are kids. It's a very loose statement, and I was shaking my head. Kids are dumber. Well, they kind of are.
Well, it's changed. So you could say kids are
But
dumber,
but being held to a higher it's not that they don't have the intelligence to be smarter. They're just not being held to a higher standard, so that they have to grow and they have to learn different behaviour to be in that environment. We are a product of our environment, and if the kids are all over the place, then, like you say, it's the whole environment. It's what's happening at home, at school, it's all of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I really am not on board yet, if at all, at putting all the blame on social media either. When they say that we've got to ban social media until this age because our kids are blah blah blah, and yet when you look at a lot of the problems with social media, it's been caused by the adults who are using social media. And so therefore I would argue that is where the problem is stemming from, is how adults are using social media. It's adults who decide on advertising. It's adults who are, grooming younger people. It's adults who are putting the content out there more so than kids. And so
but those adults, because it's not necessarily the advertising, right? It's the the narcissistic behavioral patterns that are being encouraged. Oh god, do I look okay, and have I got this, and let me put this filter on. It's all like, well, why do you care? Because the parents don't see there's anything wrong with that either.
They're using it too.
So you're right. It's the adults that are making it and the adults that are doing it, but those adults have also not learned anything different either.
They're encouraging it without actually wanting to admit. And again, this comes down to them personal accountability.
They can't admit it because they don't know.
Personal accountability. You've got to look at, if I don't like this sort of behaviour, where is that showing up in my life, and how come I'm part of that environment? What am I doing here? And actually look at your place in the world and what you are putting out there. Yeah. And so another example that's come up this week in the media is that terrible case of the young female tourist. That's the word I wanted. The young female tourist who got punched in the face by a gentleman, by a man, when they were out one night. I don't know if you've seen this on the news, but I
don't watch the news.
Right. Well, this young lady appeared on the news, and she's understandably very upset and wants sort of justice and things, because this man walked, as they didn't know each other, they were walking past each other, and he punched her in the face to the point where she was thrown back and she had her jaw
On
broke
purpose.
on purpose, in two places. And so the story was being reported very much from obviously her perspective. She went through quite a traumatic experience. And I heard her say the words, it's not right that if he feels that is an appropriate response to what happened.
So what did she say to start him off?
Well, so then when you show the whole, again, not saying that anyone deserves that. That's not what this is about. In any instance, someone punching another person is not the right response. Violence never leads to anything good, ever, ever. However, when you look at the footage, what happened was, as they were passing by, it must have been at the end of like a football game or something, there was some sort of sporting event on, and alcohol fueled. They're walking past each other with their respective friends at night, and he waved a flag in front of her. Like I think it looks like she said something. So maybe she said about her team, maybe because she saw his scarf. Maybe she said something. He waved his scarf in front of her face. So she stopped and punched him in the face. So first, he waved his scarf in her face. She stopped and punched him in the face, and he turned around and punched her back. So let's talk extreme ownership. Again, not saying that anyone, either of those people, deserve, so to speak, to be punched, because there is no. However, then saying, I suffered all this trauma because of that man, is not really accurate. You have to look at what part did I play. And if she is incensed that his reaction was that, what she's not looking at is that was her reaction first. Is it okay when someone waves something in front of your face for you to punch them in the face? Taking gender out of it. If anyone waves a scarf in front of your face or waves something in front of your face, is it okay for you to punch them in the face as a response? I say no. However, that's what sparked me to have this conversation as well, is because I'm thinking, we're vilifying, again, this is just media, vilifying the man, and 100% what he did was just stupid. However, what she did was stupid also. And it's about taking that responsibility for saying, yeah, you know what? I kind of put myself in that position too. And I showed what level of behavior I would tolerate when I used violence. And so people are mirrors, aren't they? And if you're going to be a dick,
everything is
you
right.
it's
dicks. Yeah, everything is. It comes down to it's in everything, like you say. It's what did you do? What have I done here to influence that? Like how did it happen? Like play it out. How did it happen? Don't just be like, oh well, I'm being victim.
Yeah.
Just what have you done? So, coaching somebody about they were in a session talking about their employer. Well, they called me to this meeting, and how dare they? Blah blah blah. But on what grounds? Well, they just said nobody makes anything up. Nobody wants to go through the disciplinary procedure at work, do all the paperwork. Like, yes, let me just give myself loads of work to do. Of course they don't. But it's a procedure nonetheless and has to be followed. What executed the procedure? Well, actually, what did you say at the beginning? And then and you see them go, oh, I probably, I did say, and you're like, and they're like, oh, okay. And they get it. It's like victim, or are you going to extremely own this whole thing.
Mm.
It's in everything, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. And it's also
It,
breaking down, when is a victim a victim? Because there are genuine victims, aren't there, Adam? This has come up a lot when I've.
so like you said earlier, we can fall victim
Mm.
to a certain, because something happened that's external, like a natural disaster. Yes, you would
Yeah,
be a victim of that. Do
100%.
you continue to be a victim? I can't do anything because this happened to me, or like, do you get resourceful? Because as we know, there are no unresourceful people. There are only unresourceful states. Do you get into a resourceful state and think, okay, well, how do I avoid this in the future? This has happened, great. How do I avoid this in the future and put things in place and execute that and not be a victim then? So
Mm.
I think that's the only time we can be a victim is when we fall victim for something that happens externally. But it's always what you do about it. I'm huge on this point.
Yeah, no, I
But what
love
do
it.
I mean, look, you've been with me the last 2 years and witnessed it. It's like, well, what are you going to do about it? You never actually let me wallow in anything. You were like, I know, yep, I know, yep. And what are you
Yeah,
going to do about again, what are you going to do about it? You have to pick yourself up because no other bastard's going to do it.
I,
They're not.
an unpopular opinion that I love putting out there. Here comes the triggers, baby. Is suffering is a choice.
Yes.
100%. The actual,
100%.
things that, like you said, natural disasters or people's bad behavior, children, unfortunately, who are subject to, people's bad behavior, adults, subject to other people's bad behavior. Yes, in an event, you're a victim. 100%. It's not about victim blaming here. No.
No.
You can be yourself and be living your life and still be subject to someone else's poor decisions and become a victim. And in that moment, you are a victim, and that sucks. And I think everyone
In
listening, in that moment, that is shitty and it fucking sucks. And both of us and everyone listening, I'm sure, could hold their hand up and know those moments when they were a legitimate victim. However, once the event passes, then that's, like you said, it's about becoming resourceful, because once the event has passed, the moment has passed, then when you mentally and emotionally keep returning to it, you are choosing to suffer at the hands of that moment.
Yeah.
And so this is what we're talking about with regards to extreme ownership as well. It's not about excusing the poor behavior in that moment, because that was shit. It's about saying, right, what can I do differently? What is the difference between
Why was
that
I
person?
even subject to it in the first place?
Yeah.
Why am I still at the circus watching this clown? It's all of that stuff.
What are my
isn't it?
choices? I love when people say in coaching or if I'm training, oh, but I didn't have a choice. Yeah, you did. You always have a choice. And the bitter pill is that sometimes all the choices that you can see, they all suck. They're all shitty choices. No one said the rule is that you've got to have at least one good choice. Yep. Often the choices are shit, and so what we tend to do is we take the one that we think will hurt us the least. Which one's going to be the easiest? And then we say, I didn't have a choice though. Yeah, you did. And this is the consequence of the choice you made. So what can you choose differently now? What do you want to do differently? And that's where the really hard work starts. And I've said before that personal development, self-development, it's not the kumbaya, let's hug it out. It's not the fluffy, good feels stuff. The journey of it is fucking hard. And a lot of it's uphill and rocky and twisty and turny. And you spend a lot of time not knowing if you're Arthur or Martha.
Yeah.
Because everything's getting turned upside down, because what you're doing in true self-development is you're reprogramming stuff that has shaped you from when you were younger. And often some of the stuff that shaped you when you were younger is not serving you as an adult.
Mm.
And so you have to make the decision then, am I going to do the hard work to undo that programming and then design who I am, what I believe,
Exactly.
what I'm going to do. And it's the design phase that freaks people out, because we are still living in a society, going back to what you said before, where we're very scared about, am I doing this right? Do I look okay? Will people like me? All those insecurities come out. And you ask anyone who's a designer, you've done it yourself, Adam, when you've designed websites for people. You know, you have to kind of trust your gut and design something that you think is good and functional and looks good, and be willing to have the person look at it and go, oh, no, that's shit, I don't like it.
Oh, okay. I've just had one last week. So I've listened to everything. I've designed, taken all the design cues that the client said, but I built this website. The client's come back and gone,
no, pass.
Oh, okay. Now, I mean, that's hours and hours of design time. So, if you whacked it all together, probably 2 days of designing to get, and you think, oh, okay, yeah, they're gonna love that. Didn't like any of it.
And it can gut punch you, can't it? It can gut punch you.
Years ago, it would have done, but I mean, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm not married to anything. I'd much rather people get what they want, and that's. But it's taken, like you said, it's taken some time to get
exactly
to get to that point.
And so look at that's without diminishing all your work, Adam. It's just a website. Can you imagine then that when you're designing your personality, when you're designing your life, designing how you want to show up in the world? Wow, that is really hard work. And it takes that constant kind of nurturing from yourself and from your environment and from the people that you are with. And so it's good to have people in your life, like Adam was saying before, with the two of us. You might, I might say to you, Adam, hey, I might send you a message going, oh, I feel like shit today. I'm just, nothing's working and I'm just shit and this is stupid. And your response will 9 out of 10 times be, oh, that must suck. So what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
You need that nurturing from people around you who can be your cheerleader and also be the voice of reason that kind of gives you a bit of a slap and says, all right, come on then. You're the designer. You're the architect here. So if you're feeling like shit...
Let me know when you're not at that pity party anymore.
Yeah, because I don't want to go there with you. Love you. I'm not going to that party, though.
But I don't go to shit parties, yeah.
Exactly. So I guess extreme ownership appears in many different kind of guises, and it'll mean whatever you want it to mean, as it does to many different people. However, today I really wanted to focus, I guess, on moving away from blame and simply just turning back on yourself. And again, not assigning blame. Do not take this opportunity to blame yourself. Take the opportunity to say, okay, I was at the scene of the crime. What's the reason I was there? Do I actually want to be there again? And if I don't want to be there again, what's the reason I'm choosing to return to that crime scene over and over again? What can I do differently? Who in my circle could help me to...
Yeah, and really, who isn't helping me?
Or even better as well. Who isn't helping me? Who actually encourages me to keep returning to the crime scene?
Exactly.
Look at all those things, because they all form part of your personal strategy for getting that same outcome. And if you keep getting the same outcome, then something deep inside thinks that's what you want. So there's where you've got to go deeper and sort that out with someone, yeah?
Absolutely. Oh, this has
Absolutely.
been good.
This is juicy. All right, so
Yeah,
we've gone half an hour, and we could keep going. It's such a juicy subject. So I say we leave it there.
I say that's good. That's a good spot.
It's a good
Yep.
spot, and we'll reconvene this subject maybe at another time.
Okay, darling. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
You too. Mwah. Bye.
Cheers.